Wagwan sports fans, welcome back to another very special episode of Studio Talk. I am your host Joe Meyer,
I'm Rush.
and this is This or That Sports TV, the place you guys come to get the best, most interesting, and riveting sports topics, discussions, and debates on the internet.
Yes, people, before we get into today's episode, don't forget to like the video. Leave a comment on this one and subscribe to This or That Sports TV. The one more thing though.
Share the video to at least 10 people, but ensure to get us just 6 subscribers. Because if each and every one of you guys can manage to do that, do you know how many subscribers that would get us by the end of the day, people?
Yes. And before we get into the chatting, people, you know we have to go into the rundown. We have to give you the lineup for today's show. So my brother, let them know what they're having today.
Shorter show than normal. We generally give them a power hour with 3 impactful segments. But I think these 2 segments are so big that we could manage to fit in a third one today. So what we'll be speaking about in today's episode of Studio Talk, the omission of a few marquee players from the Reggae Boys under-17 team that are going to attempt to qualify, a few Phoenix players. We're going to find out why they were absent and the whole controversy surrounding that. We'll unpack it. And then secondly, we'll talk about Dejan Whisper Richards, the person who I believe is the best player under 20 years old in the whole Caribbean, a standout player and the future for Jamaica. He did a somewhat controversial interview, and we'll react to reactions of that interview. That and we'll talk about that in so much more depth on Studio Talk.
There we go. People, the first segment after this. Studio Talk, let's go. All right, let's go. So did Craig Butler remove his players from the under-17 camp? When the first list of players was released, we saw about 6 or 7 Phoenix players, man. We saw Dylan John, Carlton Brown, Dante Peralta, we saw Denzel Washington McKenzie, we saw a couple other players, Jamani Bell, some real good players that we expect to be in the final squad, straight up. Because these are some of the best players under 17 in the country. But subsequently we saw a couple of these players removed. Some of the, at least one of them that we expected to be there all the way. And so we didn't see Dante Peralta and we didn't see Denzel Washington McKenzie. Did any other players get removed from the squad?
No, the Phoenix players, it was Dante and Denzel. Carlton Brown, Jamani Bell and Dylan John still remained in the squad.
All right. Let's speak about the players individually first before we even talk about them getting removed. Dante Peralta, how do you feel about this player and him even making it to the under-17 squad?
All right, so Dante Peralta would have been somebody that I would have had my eyes on from the last season in the Manning Cup, where Mona came out and were This or That Sports TV surprising team. In a shortened season, Mona really took it by storm. The additions of Alexander Bicknell and Dante Peralta, who would have came from different schools to make an impact on this program. Dip was, as he's affectionately called, was only 15 years old, and he was a standout in the Manning Cup. He was one of, if not the leader of that Mona High School football team. An outstanding defender. We saw him play a lot in a central defensive role or as a wing back, and he really stood out, especially as a young player, and he was somebody to look forward to. This season, though, I think he kind of plateaued. Some might even say regressed from what we saw from him last season. 1 year older, you're expecting him to be more mature, you're expecting him to be technically better, you're expecting to see a marked improvement, and that was not necessarily the case. I think he was played out of position for the most part, and that probably affected his performance. He was still recruited to the general 50-man squad, I think it was, or 50-man tryout for the under-17s. However, I'm not sure, based on his season, he would have ultimately made the final cut, to be totally honest.
Yeah, his inclusion in the first list of players, it wasn't a surprise because remember he was one of the players that were invited to the under-20 tryouts. He was one of the Phoenix players that were at that game, and we saw he did well, but he didn't make the final squad.
Yeah.
I agree with you on his performance this season. I feel like him being played out of position certainly didn't help him. I know that Phoenix, their methodology is kind of different, and Craig Butler will tell you that he was doing that to help him develop some other part of his game. But I feel like playing him as a defender, which ultimately he is, and I think that's where, if he's supposed to make it as a pro, I think he will come as a defender, not as a forward. So maybe
I think it's a central defender too.
Yeah, so central defender, I've seen him at left back and he wasn't awful last season.
Yeah.
So I think the kid could make it there, but this season, man, I've seen bad games. I've seen woeful performances from Denzel Washington McKenzie. I've seen Denzel Washington, Dante Peralta. I've seen performances from Mona where he's the worst player on the pitch. So this season it wasn't great, but I'm not going to read too much into it because he was being played as a forward and he's not a forward. But as a defender, I can say he should. If we're going to call a 50-man squad, I think Dante Peralta should be in that squad because he's one of the best. He's one of the best players under 17 in the country at the moment. He should be, based on what we saw last season and at times this season. So I'm not perturbed by him being a part of the 50-man squad. Let's speak about the other player though, Denzel Washington McKenzie, who we like at This or That Sports TV, who was a nominee for a Rising Star Award. How do you feel about this player and his inclusion in the original squad?
To note, Denzel Washington McKenzie only recently became 16 after Mona were eliminated from the Manning Cup. He did complete his schoolboy season playing at the under 16 level, to show how actually young he was while playing in the Manning Cup. And he stood out all the way. I think, besides Zane Pinnock, probably Mona High School's most impactful player, and some might argue, without a doubt, probably Dan Hugh Mitchell, but some might argue that Denzel McKenzie was Mona High School's best player. So his inclusion into the preliminary squad, the tryouts, was not a surprise to me. He's versatile. He's very skilled. Apparently, he was being played out of position in the camp, but I think because of his versatility that allows, other players who aren't as versatile as him to tuck in the midfield while he plays out wide. And I think that type of versatility, that type of talent, that dynamic nature would improve the Reggae Boys squad, and I think he would fit perfectly into that squad. I would have loved to see Denzel Washington McKenzie represent Jamaica. So I was a bit taken aback when I saw the final training squad. This is the penultimate squad before the 20-man squad is called up. I was taken aback that I did not see him be included in this.
Yeah, Denzel Washington McKenzie, I like this player, man. This position that he plays as an attacking midfielder, that's my favorite position on the pitch. I like players that can play this position and slows down the game, and he's one of those players. His technique is superb. The kid just at 15 years old, we saw him for most of the year at 15 years old and dominating in most matches that he played in. That game, Mona's worst game this season, I think, was against CC, right?
Yeah.
They looked, a shadow of themselves, and he was probably their best player in that game. There we go. He was their best player in that game. So I really like this player. I like what he offers, and he's definitely one of those players that plays above his age group. He's 16 years old and he plays as if he's 19 at the moment. He knows how to run a game. He knows how to control a game. And I would make a bet that even if he was supposed to play as a left midfielder or right midfielder, he would make the squad. I honestly believe so. He told us that earlier in his footballing career, he was playing at left back or centre back, something like that. He was a defender. So we can tell that he's a versatile player. Was really looking forward to seeing this player, but we're going to get into why exactly we're not seeing these players, because these are two of the players that people expect to see. But then we check the 37-man training squad, and they're not on it. No, there are some whispers, there are some rumors that Craig Butler removed one of them because one got drafted. Some stuff that we're not sure about. So we did our research, we did our digging, because we really wanted to know. Before we even do this show, we wanted to know what was the real reason. And we did our research, and it came to know that these players were removed. Yes, matter of fact, they weren't removed. They removed themselves, from the training camp, because they wanted to be a part of the Phoenix tour of Europe. Yeah, so that's what's happening. Every year, this is no secret. Every year, Phoenix does a tour of Europe. England, Belgium, Spain. They go to Europe and they play several teams, and then they come back to Jamaica. Now, for this one, it is going to clash with the under-17 tournament. They're supposed to leave at the end of January, I'm hearing. So these players got the option, stay and play under-17, or come to Europe and play against the Aston Villas, play against Man Cities, play against Genk, play against Benfica, play against those teams. Some of the players from Phoenix chose to represent Jamaica, and I have no problems with that. And some of the players chose to, go and spread their wings and get their names, in that talking pool in terms of professional footballers out of Jamaica. That I don't have a problem with either, but we're going to break it down. How do you feel about these players removing themselves from the training camp and opting to go to Europe instead of representing Jamaica?
I'm obviously not as forgiving as you are. You said you don't have a problem with it. Mr. Butler, have been on a tirade for the past decade or so that his players, and rightfully so, should be included in the national setup. That's something that he's been on. That's something that he said a lot for a very, very long time. And I think this is the first time that we've seen mass inclusion of players who represent Phoenix, players who are under Craig Butler. And this is what he's been fighting for this opportunity to have the boys wear the color shirt that he says he loves so much and that his boys love so much, and all his boys aspire to do is to play for the nation. Upon finally receiving that opportunity, finally receiving that call up, now is the time when you allow them to remove themselves. I'm not for it any at all. And there'll be other tours, and they could have probably caught the tour on the back end. The competition is only 2 weeks long. You have to play for your country. That's the whole point. There will never be another under-17 competition for any of those boys ever again. And this might be Dante Peralta's last chance to represent his nation. Who knows based on how he grows. Craig might say yes, if he goes and he's successful, he gets a contract, he'll be better for it and ultimately represent the nation better for it at higher levels. And I agree with that. However, playing for your country is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I don't see how you say no to that for unsanctioned and unofficial friendly matches.
I hear you. I understand it. I slightly disagree. The under 15s, I understand if we're saying this about even under 20 or the senior team. When you get called, you go.
Under 17.
Because under 17, yeah, I understand. I understand. But these players, you have to think about their end goal. Their end goal is to make it up as professional footballers. And what this will do, most of these players are 16, next year they will be 17. They need to get their names out there. And what they're thinking about, I'm just putting myself in the player's shoes. Yes, I probably would have opted to play for Jamaica.
Probably.
Yeah, I think I would have played for Jamaica. But I'm just trying to think, put myself in these players' shoes and think how they're thinking. The end goal is to get a professional contract. You have an agent who has invested a lot in you. You want to repay him. You want to go and play. You want to play against some of the best youngsters in Europe. You want to get a name out there, and this is a very good opportunity to do so. Now, if you back yourself, you know that you will get more call-ups for Jamaica. So if that's what they're thinking, I have no problem with it. Go out there, go and make a name, go and go and perform against these teams, and then who knows, in a couple of years, one of these teams, they'll get you in their program. And as far as Jamaica go, I think our team is good enough. I don't think it will hurt us. Now, having Denzel Washington McKenzie and Dante Peralta will definitely be a good addition. But them being removed from the squad, I don't think will hurt us to a great degree.
If they're good enough to make the squad, removing them from the squad will hurt us.
I don't think it will hurt us to a great degree. We think about other players that we have, the Jamani Bells and Dylan John in similar position. We think about defenders that we have. I think that we will be fine. And these players making decisions, not going to beat them as bad as you are. Obviously, I'd want to see them play for Jamaica. And I do agree with you. When a country call, it's hard, man. I think you just take the opportunity and go and play for your country. But when a trip is booked and friendlies are already planned and the clubs give you a certain time to come, and you want to be a part of that, you can't just look at the agent and say, can we reshuffle this? Can we make it another time? Can we come for the last two when they're already in swing? So it's hard. So some players opted to play. Some players opted to, go and tour Europe, which either way, I have no problem with it. Go make a name. I hope it works out for them. But obviously, I'd love to see them in that black, green, and gold. And I won't get to see that this time. But who knows? Hopefully, they progress and they'll get an under 20 call up or even national call up. These players are good players. For the players that stayed, though, Carlton Brown, Dylan John, and Jamani Bell, I would assume that you like that decision and somehow, maybe they get a few more points and your scoreboard.
It's not a matter of whether I like or hate the decision. In my opinion, it's the only decision to be made. Many people dream of being called up for their nation to play at an under 20 level. You're playing official games sanctioned by FIFA. I would never give that up to play some unofficial friendlies. As big as the opportunity might be, and I understand, especially for Craig Butler, I have no issue with him and what he's doing because he's doing his job. And if I was a player agent and my job is to get players to play professional football, and the national team was inhibiting that, then I would do my job, right? However, as a player or as a fan, I don't like the idea of voluntarily abdicating call-ups. I've always hated it on any level. When Cephas said that he didn't want a call-up because he's settling in, madness. When players are like, I can't come to the Gold Cup because of family, because of a short pre-season and so on and so forth, that can't come to the Gold Cup. Not only you have Mikel Antonio and other players who stated that excuse for the last Gold Cup. Absurd. Stuff like that rubs me the wrong way because playing for your country is so important, and when you get that call up, I just don't see how you reject it. I just don't see how you turn it down for any particular reason. Denzel Washington McKenzie is one of my favorite players, and I do believe that he is one of the best attacking midfielders in the country under 19, not to mention under 17, and I do believe that he would have been an instrumental role in this team. So you said that the loss of those two players won't hurt us. My philosophy is that if you get 20 people, and this is one or two of 20 people that would have traveled and represented your country, any one of those 20 people that you don't get to have and you have to replace them with somebody that's not as good, that is going to hurt the team. No,
to what degree and how far is the drop off to 21 and 22?
Even if that is the 20th person on the squad, when you're playing rotation games and squad games, it will affect the quality of training, it will affect the quality of football, and it will impact the quality. That's why when a team wins, it's not only 11 people who get a trophy or 15 people who get a medal or 18 people who get a medal, it's all 20 or 23 or 26. So you want to go with your strongest possible team in every possible position. I don't like the voluntary remission. It really rubs me the wrong way, especially for Denzel Washington McKenzie, who is a player that I really, really rate highly, and I would love to see him string through passes and really take up this under 20 competition. I think this would have been a breakout for him because I really do believe that he is indeed underrated in the realm of Jamaican football, and I think this would have been the competition where he would have stamped his authority and be seen as one of the best young players in CONCACAF. And unfortunately, we won't get a chance to see that. So it's very disappointing.
Yeah, it is. I'd love to see these players in the colours. In terms of the outcome, that's what I meant when I said that it won't hurt us. I don't think it... Obviously, to some degree, if these players are, if they are not... I can tell you, Denzel Washington McKenzie is not the 20th player.
Yeah.
If he would have made this squad, he's not 20. So definitely it would hurt us, but to what degree and would it change the outcome? I am not so sure. And that's what I mean. But
there's no possible way. Denzel Washington McKenzie possesses abilities that many of these players don't have, but Dylan John and Jamani Bell don't have. So it might be a case where we needed a 40-yard cracker to win us our quarterfinal game. And either Bell or Dylan John has that ability to do that. And we've seen Denzel Washington McKenzie possess said ability. So just these little things on the field that we're not going to have, just that dynamic element to our game, just another facet of scoring, another facet of chance creation, another facet of hard work and determination, hustling in the midfield. We're definitely going to be lacking that, and we will never know if it will affect the outcome. We will never know.
Yeah, even with this information, I'm still saying that we will make it to the World Cup. Top 4, semi-finals, let's go. I feel like that is still on the cards. I feel like these players, yes, it would have given us an extra boost, but still have the result the same. Yes, people, let us know your thoughts, your comments. Leave them in the comment section. How do you feel about this topic? These players opting to go to Europe, obviously make steps towards achieving a pro contract over playing at the under 17 championships.
And
What do you feel about it?
what does it do to Craig Butler's credibility? The fact that he's been fighting tooth and nail for these players to be included into the Jamaica setup, and when finally given the opportunity, removing them, or
That's the thing. That's the key thing, though. If he did remove them, which he said that he didn't remove them, then you would have a valid point. But the fact that 3 of them stayed, more stayed than opted not to go. So Carlton Brown, Jamani Bell, and Dylan John, who I'm sure would have done well on this tour because they are top players, really good players, some of the best Phoenix players. They opted not to go. So I don't think this will affect Craig Butler's credibility in any way. The fact that they were called up, I feel like that put an extra point on the JFF's board, because they are showing that I don't care where you play, I just want the best. And if they're willing to call up so many of Phoenix players, then hey, I don't think Craig Butler will have a strong point after this. Especially in the under 20 competition, we didn't see Whisper, and he said on his father said on Ryan's show yesterday that he was fit and he just didn't get caught. But and a lot of people said that hey, they did bury the hatchet. No, in this under 17 competition though, so a lot of Phoenix players clearly there are no problems. No, next call up in terms of the senior call up, there are not a lot of senior Phoenix players that we expect to make it. But who knows? Maybe we get a call up in a friendly. Who knows? And then we can get more insight into what the JFF is thinking and if they are willing to, put all their problems with Craig Butler aside. But as far as these players opting not to go, I don't feel like that will affect him and how people view him in terms of, calling for the JFF to include these players over all these years. They've included them. They've done their part. Your players just opted not to go. And maybe the players will have some questions to answer.
Can't wait to get a chance to ask them these questions.
There we go. People in the comment section, again, let us know. How do you feel about this? If you got the chance to go to Europe and play against some of the biggest clubs in the world at that level, would you go or would you play? Would you stay and represent Jamaica? Would you try to make it to the Under 17 World Cup? Maybe is that something the players that play in the championship, players that didn't play in the championship can still play in the World Cup, right?
Of course.
Exactly. So these players probably back themselves. I know the squad will make it. We're there at the World Cup.
No way, no how, not a chance. If this squad qualifies or when this squad qualifies for the World Cup, as much as I love Denzel Washington McKenzie, there's no way he goes to the World Cup in December.
No man, him can't go, man. No God, man, bro.
No way.
You wanna try to get him contract?
No way.
Try to get him contract. Is 2 years removed from signing a pro contract.
There will be other players from England, from America, who will suddenly be Jamaican right before the World Cup, and I'd rather take one of those.
Damn, that's a hard position to take.
People know how highly I rate Denzel Washington McKenzie. He's a player that basically I saw and I just gravitated to because of how skilled he is, because of his attitude. He has that star thing about him. Like Denzel Washington McKenzie is a star in the making. He has this bravado about him, but he's not too arrogant, but he's very confident, and his football speaks volumes. He's so versatile and diverse, and he's very strong, and him just look like a baller. People don't know how much we rate Ted. Everybody know that. But you pick your side. That's just for the under 17. Don't get me wrong. Under 20s are coming up, senior team are coming up. Denzel McKenzie will represent Jamaica. He will wear a Jamaica shirt one day. It just won't be in 2023.
I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him at the World Cup. People, obviously, and this is one a few times.
After him leave them hanging, you'd call him back?
The reason, I understand the reason, man.
Leave them hanging to go play some unofficial friendlies.
To get it, bro. The man try to get a contract. The man try to make sure same name in the hat. That's what he's trying to do.
Qualify your team for the World Cup and go to the World Cup and stand out. We've seen players stand out in under 17 World Cup and make names for themselves. What are you talking about?
But guess what? He's going to be seen in the places where he wants to go. That's what I'm saying. It's literally going to be at Aston Villa. It's literally going to be at Man City. It's literally going to be seen by the people and have conversations and meeting them.
If you don't qualify this team to the World Cup, there's no way you get a call up.
Man, well, I think you're going to say, because what if this team doesn't do it? What if this team doesn't make it to the World Cup? And he didn't stand out. That is not to say that he wouldn't have made it as a professional. So his decision probably work out, bro. I'm just saying that I wouldn't mind seeing it. But I understand. Again, I understand. It's not even that I think that what you're saying is madness, because I get it. I understand the love for the country. I get it. But yeah, top players, people, tell us, what do you think about this topic? A really good discussion. We're still here having our studio talk. Next topic up soon, and the man that's on the tip of everybody's tongue, Whisper, the name that they can't leave. Let's talk about it soon, bro. Studio talk. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Studio Talk. This is the second segment where we'll be talking about Dujon Whisper Richards. Is he the new Jamaican superstar? What do you think, bro?
He's definitely the next Jamaican superstar. I still maintain that assertion.
Yeah. And what make you say that, though? What make you say that?
He's, as I said, the most talented player under 20 in the whole Caribbean. You know, find somebody else and show me people. You know, people have been refuting that. Show me somebody else. Show me an next person in the Caribbean that possesses his ability. They don't exist. He was the best player in schoolboy football this season, and schoolboy football is the highest under 20 competition in the whole entire Caribbean. Need I say any more? So that simply proves that he is the best player of age in the whole region, and he has the personality to back it. You know, he has a celebrity personality. He loves the spotlight. You know, he's a standout player, and he's made for the moment. As I always say, my meter to measure people and their star power is, will this person sell shoes? That's a question that I always ask. Will they sell shoes? Shoes being anything that can be marketed, not necessarily a particular shoe, but can they be marketed? And I think Dujon Richards is somebody who a brand or many brands can market, which is why I say he's definitely the next Jamaican superstar.
Yeah, and I feel like the second point, obviously, no one can dispute the talent that Whisper has. They know he's a talented kid. He's the best Jamaican youth player right now. We know that for a fact, right? I think he's the surest youth player to make it as a pro right now. With that said, I feel like a second point is the one. Not everybody has that personality, and obviously we have the Clayton twins who are superstars in track and field. We have recently new jumper, his name eludes me at the moment, for Jamaica, the long jumper. So we have people that have the talent. Yeah. Now people would argue that the Clayton twins don't quite have the personality or whatever. But this kid, he has everything. His personality is that of a superstar. Whenever you hear him do an interview, he speaks like the greats. And I was watching the Fix interview, bro, and they asked him, what else do you do outside of football? What do you do in your leisure time? You know, the man said, eat lunch, sleep. Like, I'm saying, but I'm sure you're 17 years old, you do something. Man say, we train 2 times a day, I'm eat, I'm sleep. Like, and that's what you get from the superstars. When you think about all of them, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, they speak like there's nothing else outside of their sport. You know, and this kid, he has it, man. And some other things that he mentioned, you know, he speaks as if he's already there. That is something that we'll speak about later on in the conversation. But he knows that he'll make it. He's sure. You know, and I like that from him. The personality, obviously, he needs some work in terms of interviewing skills and media and all of that. But it will come. I'm sure it will come. But in terms of natural pull, and people gravitate to the kid. People like it. You know, obviously, a lot of people say that he's hype or whatever. But he has that pull. And to answer your question, can Whisper sell shoes? I think that's a sure yes. That kid can sell some shoes, definitely with his performance and with his personality. He's good for a soundbite. We know that also well. You know, he's good for a good talk. He's good for a good laugh. And I feel like that sets him up well to be the next Jamaican superstar. And yes, barring injury, I don't see what can stop this kid from being the next Jamaican superstar. He is up next. Talk to me about the recent interview that he did. What do you think is the intention behind this interview? Why did they do this interview and why no?
Well, Leon Bailey would have done one recently with Jeffrey, and I think Kirk Butler himself said that he wasn't aware
Hmm.
that Leon Bailey did that interview. So I think in this situation, he attempted to get ahead of it and do one similar to the Jeffrey's with Leon Bailey interview, but this time, obviously, have his fingerprints on that. Craig Butler seems to always want to have his fingerprints on it, for better or worse, and I think this time it definitely did. Both right there in person as Craig Butler was there alongside him, and the way how the interview went. I think this was all Craig Butler. The purpose of it, the Leon Bale interview got a lot of notoriety. It made a lot of waves. It got a lot of traction. It did receive a lot of attention. And one thing about Craig Butler, for better or for worse, he's going to want to attract attention to him and his players. Some might say that's a good thing because that helps with advertising, that helps with branding. Some might say it's a bad thing because it adds undue pressure and it makes his players public enemy number one. But I think all in all, Craig Butler just saw this as an opportunity to get Dejan Richards out there to continue to beat the drum that Dejan Richards is the best and is next up. And this was just another opportunity for him to do it in a controlled manner. So that's what I think the purpose of this interview was.
Yeah, and I watched the interview. I agree with you, by the way. I think that is the intention. And in fact, we'll take a segment of Ryan's interview of Oda Richards, Rich Whisper's father, and from his perspective, what this interview was about. But first, before we even do that, I watched the interview. The way it started was kind of shaky. I didn't like the way it started, the things that they were saying, the questions that were asked. I didn't really like it. They said that if I had played for Mona, they would have won money. Some things that you're just not supposed to say as an athlete, or it's not politically correct. You're not supposed to say.
But even as a Kingston College student, Dejan Richards is still a student at Kingston College until June when he do CSEC exams because he's a grade 11 student. So like as a KC baller, why would I ever think of play for Mona? Like as a KC baller, it's not Phoenix. Like if me play for Mona, I'm a KC baller.
Yeah.
If Craig was at JC, when I say if me ever play for JC or if Craig was at Calabar, if me play for Calabar, no, like me a KC man. If me play for KC, because it's just KC. My club is Phoenix, and you get me as like for example, Nashada Gibbs, he plays for Kingston Football Club. That's the club that he's associated with. Currently a member of the under-17 squad right now. Somebody to look out for. You'd never hear a statement like, "Oh, if I had played for Campion, my team would have been more successful." Right? Bro, if Nashada Gibbs played for Campion would have been way better. Trust and believe that. But that's not something that I'm sure that's not even in Nashada Gibbs' head. I'm sure he disassociates Kingston Football Academy with Campion College. I'm sure that there's a massive split. Yes, he goes there, and probably 14 people on that team, when he plays his club football or his academy football, 14 of those players play for Campion College. However, when he's there, and though he might be wearing red, he's not wearing Campion's colours because Nashada Gibbs is purple at his very core, right? So I'm sure he separates his club football from his high school football. And for sixth form, Nashada Gibbs is not going to Campion College.
Not at all.
Next year we'll be seeing him at Kingston College. And I'm pretty assured that next year he'll also be still playing for Kingston Football Academy. Right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think the way how he disassociates the two is exactly how it's supposed to be disassociated. Like they said Whisper won't be here next year. I hope he's not, and I don't think he will. But if he is, you'll have to go to school.
He'll definitely be going to Kingston College. I feel his father's a KC man. He'll be there. But I feel like this was just a kid speaking.
Yeah, but based on that sentiment he shared, could we see Dejan Richards in the Mona High sixth form?
I don't think so. I honestly don't believe so. And the point I was making though, the first part of the interview rubbed me the wrong way, saying that the Manning Cup was just like practice matches and blah blah blah. Right, which I understand where they're coming from, because Craig Butler he said it before. Even on our program, he said that we're just using this as practice. The end goal is to is professional football. No one cares about schoolboy football, blah, blah, blah. In fact, prior to last year's Manning Cup season, Craig Butler has been on a rant about schoolboy football. He hated it. He hated the idea of schoolboy football. So I understand where they're coming from, but the first part of the interview was so shaky. I didn't like the answer. I didn't like the questions. But towards the middle, towards the end, I feel like it was a good conversation. It was, some very good topics they touched on. His love for football came out. His love for his coach came out. How much he listens to his coach came out. A lot of things came out in the interview, and I feel like it did well, and I feel like there are a lot of positives that were taken from that interview. It did well. Whatever the objective was when they went to the fix, I feel like that it was achieved. And I feel like it was to help the celebrity of Whisper. It was to make more people know the kid and love the kid. And I feel like that I feel like it definitely helped them in that cause. Now, before we continue the discussion, let's see what his father had to say about the interview.
What was the purpose of the interview?
What was the purpose of the interview? You know that Craig is his agent and he is his marketer. So I think he used that as a marketing strategy.
All right. So on the Ryan LFC show, big up Ryan LFC, by the way. Definitely someone that we have a good relationship with in the YouTube space. JT was on the show and he called in and asked, what was the point of this interview? And what I said is straight up. Craig Butler is his agent. He used this as a marketing strategy. They're clearly playing into the celebrity of Whisper. I have no problems with it. Them doing it so early though, how do you feel about that? He isn't signed it, he's still a schoolboy, just after the Manning Cup. That's the only thing that we've seen. Is it a bit too early to be doing this?
No. It's never too early to build their brand. It's never too early to build their brand. As long as the player on the field continues to do what he needs to do, then it's all good for me. Players start selling shoes at this point, at this time. They're by next year. I think he's born in September. He should be signing a Nike contract, and he should be now paid to endorse shoes. So the bigger his brand is from now, the bigger that sponsorship deal will be. So I have no issue with building the brand. But one thing that we need to always remember, and I don't think this is a problem for Dejan Richards, one thing that we need to remember is that what builds the brand most of all is what's done on the football field. And I think once we continue to see Whisper play football, once he continues to improve, he'll be fine. I have no problem with building a brand from this point on. We speak about the Ball brothers, Lonzo, Lamelo, and Liangelo, two of whom are NBA stars at this point in time. One a bigger star than the other. One a solid point guard, that's Lonzo, solid point guard, a good role player, a definite starter in the NBA, and somebody who can contribute to winning basketball. And Lamelo, the other one, a standout, like a star in this league. He's going to be an all-star again for the second consecutive year. And you think about his brand, Lamelo Ball's brand, that's a brand that has been building since he was 13 years old. So he's had a brand, he's had his own brand, scoring 92 points in a game, pulling up from half court, wearing his hairstyle, and his father coming out and saying that he's the best one out there, he's as good as 19-year-old, so on and so forth. And that has benefited him off the court, allowing him to be able to sign a massive Puma contract like right off the bat because of the branding machine that he would have had come into the league with. And once his basketball back it up on the court, currently averaging around 23 points in the NBA at 21 years old. Like once you're doing that much, the branding would have only consolidated and helped your point. So I have no problem building his brand from now. Why not start from early? Why not get his face out there? Why not let people know him? We've been doing our part. And Craig is the agent, so he's also supposed to be doing his part as well. Once the football continues to football, then this will only benefit him. Can't hurt anyone.
For sure, and I agree. The one thing I'd say is I hope the kid just continues to work, and I don't think, as I said, I don't think this, Whisper is one that doesn't work hard. I don't know. I've probably seen him train once. I don't know for sure, but if I had something to tell him, you have the star power, bro. You have the talent. Just keep working hard. Keep it down and work hard. Obviously, as I said before, need a training, need that. If he's going to be a star, and he's going to get better. I would think about the Liam Baileys out there, bro. Interviewing was never what?
You saying both?
You're saying both. Interviewing when they just started their careers as schoolboys, it wasn't their strong point. But look at them now, bro. You see, when you have an interview with Liam Bailey, you're going to get a great conversation. Christopher Taylor, you say both. When you have a conversation with them, it's a great interview. Yeah. So Whispers on the same boat. I don't think much people are at the start of the Money Cup, they were borderline bullying the kid whenever I did an interview. But no, he's obviously getting better. I've seen him on Sportsmax. I've seen him on Talk of Youth. I see him even on this interview. He was clear in the things that he wanted to say. But obviously needs some work. In terms of the celebrity of this kid, I hope it continues to grow. I hope he makes it as a superstar, as a Jamaican superstar, and I'm confident that Whisper will be playing in the black, green, and gold very soon.
He has all the elements. He's a well-dressed individual. Carries himself very well. He comports himself in a classy manner for the most part. He knows how to have fun, but you'll never see him doing anything ridiculous, anything stupid. That's not the type of thing he's. On the field, he's cocky and arrogant, but he's not violent. Like, you won't see Dejan Richards be getting red cards. And trust me, he's been hit and he's been taunted and he's been bullied so much on the field, and his response to that is scoring goals.
More than scoring goals, he plays into it. We see him jeering players.
That's literally his response to the abuse that he gets. Like, he's not the type of player that will, because we've seen teams frustrate him. We saw him extremely frustrated against Jose Marti, and the way he handled that with such class and grace, coming and doing a solid interview afterwards. I think after that Jose Marti game, he was so clearly frustrated, and all of this is why this temperament that he has on the field, amazing temperament. He's like, some would say a gentle giant, but he's aggressive enough to assert himself on the field. But I don't see Whisper throwing a punch. I don't see Whisper going out and getting into bar fights, because he's led so well by Dar Richards, who is like a disciplinarian and a very good man. Like, we've spoken to him on many occasions, and he's guided by other stars like Liam Bailey, so on and so forth. I think he has everything in the making to become the next star. Once his football stays where it is, if he maintains his personality, maintains his sense of fashion, maintains his sense of style, maintains his temperament, he'll be A-okay.
Yeah, and that final point that you made about his father, I think that has a lot to do with, where he is right now, and even where he's going to go, the places that he's going. I feel like his father is a big factor in what Whisper is doing. I watched the interview with Ryan, and he said that he knew that his kid had something special, but he didn't quite know how to get him out there. And he saw what Javi Simmons' father did. That's the Dutch player. Yeah, he's been a superstar all his life, by the way. All his life, from he was a kid. He saw that, and what Javi Simmons' father did was to record his every play, record everything he did, posted it, built up the celebrity. Similar to what we're seeing with Whisper right now. And he's following that playbook. So kudos and much props goes to Odile Richards, because what?
Standing out in the Eredivisie, recent World Cup call-up, started out at Barcelona, then PSG, and it's rumored that he will be returning to PSG. That same Javi Simmons right there, still, but only a young child, representing his nation at the World Cup. And if there's any model that somebody should follow, I think that's definitely one to follow for sure.
There we go. People, anything you want to say to us or put in the comment section, man? Probably see it, who knows. Your opinions on the topic, though. Why did Whisper do this interview? Do you like the interview? You like the look of the interview? The aftermath? Do you like it? Is Whisper the next Jamaican superstar? Is he? Answer that question for us in the live chat and in the comment section, please. Good conversation, bro. We give them 45 minutes.
Cut one more time, and we'll come back and we'll give them a review. You get me, I say? So yeah, right. People, that was the two discussions. We are going to take one last slight break, come back with a recap, send it off. Almost on.
Alright, there we go. People in studio talk. I'll be right back. Yes. And let's do a quick recap of the show today. We started the show off talking about the under 17 camp and a couple Phoenix players that were selected, but opted to go to Europe at the end of the month instead of representing Jamaica. One of us like the move, one of us don't like the move, and one of us don't necessarily have a problem with it, people. How do you feel about that move from the Phoenix players? Did this affect Craig Butler and his credibility and what he's been calling for the JFF to embrace his players? Will this affect anything? Will the JFF say that? So we call the players and come. Is this something that the JFF will say? We don't know. Tell us in the comment section. People, we also spoke about this phenomenon. I definitely say a phenomenon. We don't see this every year. Whisper, is he the next Jamaican superstar? He recently did an interview with The Fix, where a lot of people had a lot of things to say, and we definitely gave our 2 cents. What do you have to say about this? Let us know in the live chat in the comment section, bro. What else you have to say to the people?
As it relates to the first topic that you spoke about, I'd love to see Little 10. They're probably number 10. I can't wait to see the number allocations for this. Yeah, I'm so excited about this under 17. This under 17 World Cup qualifying competition. But yeah, disappointed that the players won't be there. What else can I say? Phoenix organization is a massive one, including the likes of Dejan Richard, Daniel Mitchell,
Raheem Bernard.
Yes, so there'll be a huge complement of players who are 17 and 18 years old who definitely need this a bit more than Denzel Washington McKenzie. I'm not saying that he's too young, but I'm saying that the tour, there's always going to be a next tour. There will never be a next under 17 World Cup for him or a next under 17 World Cup qualifying competition for him, which is why I would have hoped that he would have chosen to go there. The likes of Carlton Brown and Dylan John, Jamani Bell. Hopefully those guys all make the final cut, especially Carlton Brown. I think he'll be the one fighting the hardest out of those Phoenix players to make it into the squad. I'd love to see him make it there. But all in all, I'm happy. I'm happy for the opportunity that Craig Butler is providing for these boys. Don't get me wrong. And he needs to keep on doing it. And whether or not I like the fact that he's providing these opportunities, people, whether or not you like the fact that he's providing these opportunities, Craig Butler will continue to provide these opportunities for these children. The likes of Deshaun Richards and Hakeem Bernard, as you said, they can go. I would hope that all the players eligible to play for the country would have stayed because the nation has to take priority. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But that gone, good luck to the man them on them tour. Definitely hope them get a contract. Definitely looking forward to see them in the next under 20 cycle. As it relates to Whisper, he's the next player that still has under 20 age. So who knows? Next under 20 cycle, you might see Denzel Washington McKenzie and Dejan Richards finally being included. Maybe Whisper captain in that team. Finally leading us to the World Cup and giving his nation success. I think there's a lot to look forward to from these 2 players. I think Denzel McKenzie, the first, the player we featured in the first, and Dejan Richards, the player we featured in the second. Continue doing those interviews, continue getting your face out there, continue building your brand, because on your 18th birthday, I assume you'll be signing for Nike.
I'm pretty sure he'll probably be going live. I feel like something big is coming this year, man. Yeah, even others said on Ryan show that, listen, he was on a little mini rant, by the way. He was saying, yo, people, this is not how football works. Who knows? We probably signed something already, but we can't come tell you. Wait until 18. So who knows? Maybe the kid is already signed, and maybe this is why we're seeing this media push from them.
Yeah, so that's exactly so. At 18, when Nike comes with all that money, these interviews is going to determine how much all that money is going to be. So continue doing these interviews and Whisper off the field, continue being Whisper, continue working hard. Continue live your best life, but not too good of a life yet until you reach a level. But besides that, bro, another good episode of Studio Talk.
Yeah, we need Whisper on the show. We need other Richards on the show. Probably get Craig Butler again. This will be the year of Whisper. Hopefully, he's the next Jamaican superstar, people. Hopefully. We need him on the show. If you like
He's the next Jamaican superstar. It's
There
not
you
a-
go, Joe Man said definitively. If you like today's episode of Studio Talk, don't forget to like the video.
Who else did I predict? Chris Taylor. It's not too late for Chris Taylor.
Yeah, they pretty Chris Taylor still. It's a Chris Taylor is like LeBron James and the people.
It's not too late for Chris Taylor. I said Chris Taylor is the next superstar. I think Chris Taylor will emerge, and then Dejan Richards. I still believe in Chris Taylor.
Make us see. I'm going with Dejan Richards. Yeah, people also leave a comment on the video and subscribe to this side at Sports TV. Do one more thing though.
Not the Chris Taylor from Sportsmax. I mean Christopher Taylor, former Calabar athlete, 400-meter hurdler, the best. 400-meter sprinter, 200-meter, the best the nation has ever seen at the schoolboy level. Yes, better than Usain Bolt. Believe me when I tell you people, Chris Taylor got next. Don't worry about it. I called it then and it will come to fruition. Anyways, share the video to at least 10 people, but ensure to get us just 6 subscribers. Because if each and every one of you guys can manage to do that, you know how many subscribers that get us by the end of the day, people?
There we go. A lot. For now, people, this was this side at Sports TV. This is another episode of Studio Talk.
Yeah.
We're out.
Play the music.
There we go.